DJ Marquez, DJ Marquez, DJ Here's another classic in the mix.
When I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning, love, bears heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you, and the world's all right with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
DJ Marquez, DJ Marquez, DJ Marquez.
Someone to count on in a world of change. Here I am, stopped where you stand. What you need is a lover, a man to take over. Oh girl, don't look any further. Strange when you think of the chances that we won't be in a state of mind. Too cool to be careless, looking for the right thing. Oh baby, don't look any further. Tonight we're gonna take a little paradise. Rockin' all night long, baby, all night. Tonight I'll still be looking in your every eye. And you go on and on and on. I'm the G.I. aisle. Well, don't look any further. Damn, the champion aisle. Well, don't look any further. Someone to count on. Count on. In a world of change. What you need is love. Love you all over. Love you all over. Baby. Don't you look any further. Further.
Here's another classic in the mix.
Little sin, 10 years ago, this day function. I promised I would never ever be returned. When my baby broke my heart and left me young. As we walked to the room, there were faces staring, glaring down through me. Someone said, welcome to the new. And they smiled with light that looked down simply through me. This is scary. We walked up the stairs to the ceiling room. There was a girl sitting in my room. She walked up in my face, said, this is the place. Used to meet you right here in the room. This is Heartbreak Hotel. Welcome to Heartbreak Hotel. So this is Heartbreak Hotel. This place is Heartbreak Hotel.
Girl, words can express the way I feel for you. The way you hold me, the way you touch me.
I'd like to welcome everybody on. I'm just warming up. I go by the name of DJ Marquis. Just ride with me Saturday morning cleanup music.
Don't stop now.
My dreams are now reality. Each and every time you are here with me, the touch you give me with your hands. You caress my skin, I'm under your command. Girl, you hypnotize me with your eyes. It took me some time, now I realize it's you. So where I belong, I love it. The feeling is strong. The things you do to me, it brings out ecstasy. It really turns me right on. Getting me to know, girl, you are my lover. When I'm with you, there is no other hotel. You got me under. Please don't you leave. I'm on my hands and knees. Words can't express the way I feel. Most is for you. I'm so man. Girl, you love me over and over again. Don't stop. Please don't let it end. The things you do to me, it brings a back to fear. It really turns me on. Feels keep me strong.
Time with that. Some days
days with you. I want the same old love. All I wanna do is keep on loving you. Same old love. There's a reason I feel this way. All the things you do, what might be the things that you say. Your love never changes. It's like a picture frame, and it remains the same. Your kind of love for me, oh, keeps me strong. Keeps me holding on from beginning to end. 3 months, 5 days for you. I was the same old love. All I wanna do is share my life with you. Same old love.
And pain, I like sunshine and rain. Sing it with me right now. Joy, ooh, and pain. I like sunshine and rain. Ain't it the truth right now? Joy and pain. Ooh, I like sunshine and rain. Sing it with me one time. Joy, Lord, and pain. I like sunshine and rain. Do it by yourself.
Here's another classic in the mix.
Southern girl, don't you know? Look to me and I think you so. I wouldn't be right if you had been right there. I wanna talk to you. Southern girl, you're the one. Rock the love and rock the fun. In the next you give me, I wanna take you everywhere, yeah. Oh, oh, oh. I would have been out you are first to hear my call. Get up, there's nothing I would not do. Before I let you go. I would never let you go before.
Drop it down, low. Drop it down, low. Low to the floor. Low to the floor. Buddy up, drop. Buddy up, drop. Buddy up, drop. Buddy up, drop. Now to the left, shuffle to the right, to the left, shuffle to the right. Now wobble with it, 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 now.
You make me happy. If you can bear, you stay right beside me, yeah. And I won't forget. I really love you. You should know. I wanna make sure I'm right, boy, before I let go. Now we had a good time that we can say we hurt each other, yeah. And boy, it's a shame. I won't be foolish, no. I wanna know. I wanna make sure I'm right, boy, before I let go. You know I thank God sun rises and shines on you. You know there's nothing I would not do. Before I let you go. I would never let you go. I look back on all the times we once shared, and I must have been blind, but stupid. I'd find someone new, one who loved you better than you. And it's so bright. Loneliness has opened my eyes. I am you all my time. Still I can't get you out of my mind. Oh, there's no one in the world to go. No one in the world gonna move me. No one in the world can love me like you do, baby. Every time I'm with someone, hallelujah for one more. I wanna run back to the wrong today. There's no one in the world that act like you. It's all you have to know in your life. Well, for me, I'm taking the time to stop the show. Every time I'm with somebody, thought if they over me.
Yes, I'm down there.
I wanna know, can you feel it too? Just run.
This stuff is starting now. It's the same feeling I always seem to get from you. There's no mistaking, I clearly taken of the simple gift of you. This stuff is starting now. This stuff is starting now. This stuff is starting now. My eyes roll in my head. I toss and turn in my bed. In the morning when I think of you.
Yes, I do.
Simply put, you're the reason why. Even though I'm real shy. I'm to the perfect for you.
Indeed, I do. Cause you are baby, fascinate me.
I'll thank heaven for the things that is
You're sweet, you're taking my appetite, but it's off. Ow, she's a breath. Ow. She might attack, just letting it all hang out. She's a breath. Ow. Like lady stack, that's a fact. Ain't holding up tonight. Ow, she's a breath. Ow. Well, put it together, everybody knows this is how the story goes. She knows she got everything that a woman needs to get a man. Yeah, yeah. How can she lose? She used 36, 24, 36. What a winning hand. Oh, she's a bitch. Ow. She might to my dad. Just let me all hang out. She's a bitch. Ow. Now I lay it up. That's the fact. Ain't holding up to that. Oh, she's a bitch. Ow. Yeah, she's the one, the only one. Feels like that on the line.
It's driving me out of my mind. That's why it's hard for me to find. Can't get it out of my head. It's her lover. That girl is.
Yeah, Spider-Man and freezing full effect.
I'll just bring you back to the undergrad year.
I'm ready.
Don't forget to stretch.
Girl, I must warn you. I sense something strange in my mind. Yo, situation is let's good cause we're running out of time. It's also relationships they seem from the start. It's also think of it not taking from the heart. Yeah.
It's driving me out of my mind. That's why it's hard for me to find. Can't get it out of my head. It's her lover. That girl is you never took a big one and smile. That girl is
If I were you, I'd say
contagious, cause I'm winning. No, not losing a PNMC is what I choose. Ladies love me, girls adore me. I mean, even the ones that saw me like the way that I rhyme at a show. The reason why, man, I don't know, so let's go, cause my name is Mark, I got a real funky concept. Listen up, because I'm gonna keep you in step. I got an idea that I wanna share. You don't like it, so what? I don't care. I'm number one, so who knows? I like mine. Bring on the stuff that is all them awesome. The back, cause all the real protest. All of my followers, cause all I want is peace back. I'm not a boxer, but the name is Doctor. But think brother that release me out popular. Cause I'm hard, the last name beats that. You don't know my life, I don't know who you the president. So let's go hard, it's be too hard. I'm not a sucker, I don't need a bodyguard. I won't let go of bulletproof jet. I don't smoke with a can't stand that.
It's too early for this, but I know. I'm just warming it up. We're about to get this thing started in a few minutes. Tell a friend to log on.
Walk in this place, stop twice to say, I make help from this side, just like you go keep. The way she shook her full tag, show look good to me. I said, baby girl, what's rock my world? Show that dance to me. Hey, rip that red line. When you get to the closer, put your hands still in motion, right? Hey, check this next bit. Hanging up this phone, and you run a little lot all night long. What are you gonna do about it? Check it.
Oh. Okay. Ah! Oh. Yeah, I'm trying
Them land grants from state to Claflin, educating black since 1896. I'm representing the Gardner and Blue, and know they can't shut us down because we way too historic. I'm proud of my school, shout out to the home team. We are open for success, we are destined to succeed. I am repping FC. Watch how we rejuvenate, them Q's about to set it out. Look out for that Alpha train, live from the plaza. It's the Marching 101, schooling bands across the land with that Carolina funk. I'm glad I went to college, I ain't even gonna front. Shout out Morehouse, shout out Morris Brown, turn it up. I got that school spirit, I don't know about you, but I love my HBCU, SCSU. I love my HBCU, Delaware State. I love my HBCU, Johnson C. I love my HBCU, SCSU, SCSU. I love my HBCU, Lincoln. I love my HBCU. I love my HBCU, SCSU, SCSU.
Good morning and welcome to the San Antonio National Panhellenic Council's inaugural HBCU Virtual Race Challenge kickoff. We are excited to share with you the details of our interactive, energetic, and Pause for It with a Purpose event coming up next month. We have some very special guests who will talk to us about their HBCU experience, voter registration, the census, and some legislative items we all need to be aware of. Please help me welcoming the SA NPHC President, Sister Gwendolyn Aquendo of Zeta Phi Beta, Sorority Incorporated, and Brother Gregory Short of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, who will give us our welcome and invocation.
Good morning, fellow Greeks and HBC supporters. I welcome you on behalf of the 45 representatives of the San Antonio National Pan-Hellenic Council for our inaugural HBCU Virtual Race Challenge. We are delighted that you are joining us as we acknowledge their collective college experience that is like no other. We started a dream at large and small colleges across America that nurtured our academic goals, forged lifelong friendships, and ensured that we had a network when other ones were not readily available. Our Greek organizations enhanced our college experience. We welcome all of you to share our pride and joy. I'm a proud graduate of Alcorn State University, and I want all of us to join the inaugural San Antonio National Pan-Hellenic Council Virtual Race Challenge. We are hopeful. Stay healthy and safe.
God bless you, heaven smile upon you. We thank you for joining us. We ask that you bow your heads for a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before the throne of grace and mercy, thanking you for this day of service in truth and righteousness. We ask that you would bless every household represented. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the San Antonio Pan-Hellenic Council, our prospective organizations, and the HBCU community. May your hands be upon the seed of harvest. May the yield of increase be pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. Our prayer is that this labor not be in vain, but instead be a blessing to the recipients, as well as those who have opened their hearts to contribute. May the grace of God rest, rule, and abide with us forevermore. In the name of our Lord and Savior, we pray and release all. May we all stay healthy in God. Amen.
And Brother Short for our welcome and our invocation. And I did neglect to introduce myself. My name is Sydney Knowles, member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and I am a graduate of the great Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, Florida. Up next, we have Sister Jennifer Williams of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, who will be leading us in the first stanza of the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We ask at this time that you would please stand where you are for the singing of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Oh, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you so much, Sister Williams, for sharing your lovely voice with us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We will now transition to our HBCU panel, where we will have an opportunity to speak to a few HBCU alum about their experience at a historically Black institution. We will also have the opportunity to talk with the San Antonio National Pan-Hellenic Council Scholarship Chair and our recent scholarship recipient, and they're going to share a few details about our scholarship program. Now, please welcome Dr. Adina Williams-Lawson, president of St. Philip's College.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I am great, and I am excited to be a part of this first annual virtual challenge, race challenge for our historically Black colleges, and in particular, San Antonio and the community, the Greek community in San Antonio.
And we are delighted to have you. And, you know, St. Philip's College is a very important component of this event. We are actually considering St. Philip's College our starting point for this virtual race challenge. So we are so excited to have you here. So, and again, Dr. Lawson, you are the president of St. Philip's College, which is a part of the Alamo College District here locally in San Antonio, which happens to be the most Western HBCU in the United States. So can you tell us some history about HBCUs and how one ended up in San Antonio?
Absolutely. I hear a background, so I hope you can hear me clearly. St. Philip's College is an historically Black college. We were established in 1898. I serve as the 14th president of St. Philip's College, but we were established by St. Philip's Episcopal Church. The historically Black colleges, just to give you a little bit of backdrop, and then I'll come back to St. Philip's, they were the beacon of hope for career pathways. We were established, the HBCUs were established primarily for the purpose of educating emancipated slaves because there was no other vehicle or opportunity that existed. And this is where, at the HBCUs, where the village community truly comes together to ensure that we can reach our higher educational goals. We are public, private, church affiliated, federally chartered, which is Howard. We are 2-year, 4-year, so there's a complete mixture of the historically Black colleges. St. Philip's College initially was church affiliated when the Diocesan Council, the Episcopal, the West Texas Diocesan Council established the first Black Episcopal Church in San Antonio, which was St. Philip's Episcopal Church. The church immediately upon its establishment in 1895 decided that they wanted to create some educational opportunity for emancipated slaves, and that was the daughters and granddaughters of emancipated slaves. So they started a Saturday evening sewing program, and that Saturday evening sewing program ultimately evolved into an elementary school, a grammar school, from a grammar school to a vocational school to an industrial school to a college, which is who we are now. And that was when the church established St. Philip's in 1898. They brought on a leader, a very dynamic leader, Artemisia Bowden. Her assignment was to take the Saturday evening sewing school and make it an elementary school. Well, her vision was much greater, as many of the leaders for HBCUs are. She took that assignment and made it not only an elementary school, but ultimately it became a college. And she served as a leader for 52 years, and she wore pearls every day for 52 years. So St. Philip's College now has 13,000 students. We've been accredited since 1951, and we have 4 early college high schools, 2 P-Techs, and we're continuing to grow. We have over almost 100 degrees and certificates that the students may choose between. But as we think about the HBCUs and their establishment, it started primarily with the Morrill Act in 1890, which was the second one. And it was an opportunity where Congress had legislated that states would provide land. They would create land grant opportunities so we could start HBCUs. And then in there were 17 HBCUs that came out of that. And I must proudly say the second one was Alcorn State University in 1871, my alma mater, and I am an Alcorn Brave, so I'm the product of an HBCU, as well as being the president of an HBCU. And I attribute all of my academic successes from Alcorn State University, because they were the ones that provided me with not only the knowledge, skills, but the confidence that I received at Alcorn State University. And that is a part of the large history of HBCUs. It is a village concept. When you're there, you know with 100% certainty that all of the faculty, staff, and administration are there committed to your success. We're known for our nurturing, and that's what we do extremely well, is we provide the nurturing concept for all of the students that are in our charge and care to ensure that they're able to successfully accomplish their career goals.
Wow. Well, thank you. That is such a rich history when we talk about why we needed to bring HBCUs to the table for our African American students, both female and male. And I absolutely love the rich history that St. Philip's College has here in San Antonio. So thank you so much, Dr. Loston, for sharing that information with us. And one of the things you said is basically, if you know, you know. And I think when you started to talk about what the HBCUs offer for our students, it's definitely, we can tell you all day, but we can show you even better. So thank you. So, yes, ma'am.
And a couple of things that I want to point out right now. Not only are we celebrating 130 years of the Morrill Act, which established the land grants, but just think about where we are on Friday. It was the 57th anniversary for the I Have a Dream speech from Dr. King, also elevating opportunities for African Americans in education and in many other venues. But before, I think that what's happening right now is I have to acknowledge that we now have a viable candidate for the Vice President of the United States, and she is the product of an HBCU. This is historic and it is history making. And I don't want to leave without mentioning that particular fact, but I'm sure most of us are aware. But if not, we are now on the precipice of saying we too can produce presidents and vice presidents. And I want to thank my Sauras and the members of Alpha Tau Omega, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, because they adopted St. Philip's College. So we're now under their care. We are very excited about that adoption, and they have supported us financially as well by helping to ensure that those students that come to us have the financial resources to continue in their career journey. And that's what we do at HBCUs. We make sure that there is a career opportunity. We provide the financial support. And many of us from the very, very, very beginning, we did not even require, there were no entry-level requirements. Some now have entry-level requirements, but St. Philip's College, we welcome everybody. There are no requirements, there are no rejection letters that are going out to any student. So I'm excited about the fact that we do exist. We're very viable institutions, and we continue to deliver quality products.
Excellent. Well, I am so glad that you and your institution, your college, have the support of the Ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And it's never too much to remind everyone that we do have Senator Kamala Harris running as our potential Vice President of the United States, which is such a historical moment for all of us. So thank you so much for that reminder. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have a great rest of your Saturday, and we hope to see you on the HBCU trail.
Absolutely. Forever.
Yes.
What is it? Wakanda forever?
Yeah. Wakanda forever. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Loston. And now we are going to bring some special guests, some alum of HBCUs across our nation. We want to go ahead and welcome Mr. we're going to go ahead and welcome Mr. Edgar Rayford of Grambling State University, McDowell of Bethune-Cookman University, Mr. William Hayes of Jackson State University, and Ms. Arabella Hall, graduate of Southern University. Welcome to you all.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Glad to be here.
guys.
How are y'all?
Great.
Doing great.
Good. Well, so here's what we're going to do. I have a question for each of you. And I would like you to answer the question. And then after we finish, everyone, I'll go ahead and give you the opportunity to add anything else before we let you go. Okay.
Sounds good.
Wonderful.
All right. So, Mr. Rayford, this first question is for you.
Okay.
So, you graduated from Grambling State University.
Absolutely.
Why did you choose to go to an HBCU?
Well, and thank you everyone for being on to this important presentation. Um, I chose Grambling State University based on the fact that my mother and father, as a child, always were at Grambling events. And in those Grambling events, whether it be a football game, basketball, baseball, track, or coming to see some of my family members, I noticed that some of my family members from all over the country were at Grambling. And I didn't know they knew about Grambling. And it was exciting to see your family in a different setting and growing and learning in an environment that you call home. So, family from Chicago, from the state of Washington, from Florida, Atlanta, Alabama, were kind of in my zone, and I was excited to see how they were being cultured and being able to learn to get to the next level. So it was exciting to see that, and I wanted to be a part of that and be able to make an impact in my livelihood now, and it's worked. And just that Grambling experience to be around Coach Eddie Robinson. I actually lived in his apartment complex when I was in college at Grambling after I had pledged. To be able to see the world famed Tiger Marching Band work to perfection, and it kind of pushed over into me to work towards that perfection. And we are iconically known all over the world as the one of the greatest HBCUs of all time. So I'm glad I made that choice. I had other choices. I had choices to go to predominantly white institutions, but it was nothing like going into that family environment at Grambling, where I met people from all over the country and the world and still have these long-lasting relationships from back in the day in the late 80s.
I love it. Well, and I'm sure we all can relate to those long-lasting relationships from our HBCUs. And I do want to go ahead and just recognize Grambling State University. I know those of us here in San Antonio, some of us were getting excited because Grambling was actually coming into town to play University of Texas at San Antonio. And I, for one, I wasn't sure, but I was hoping they would bring their band because I love to support other HBCUs when they do come into my town. So hopefully after COVID-19 goes away, we can have Grambling come back in and try that again.
Trust me, you know the G gonna come and show up, and we're gonna show out.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Rayford. The next question is for Mr. Brown. You are a graduate of Florida A&M University. So, and I want to pause really quickly. We have some feedback. So if anybody might be typing, go ahead and I ask that you mute yourself until we have an opportunity to get to your question. So, but for you, Mr. Brown, you stay on your mic because this one is for you. So, do you think HBCUs are still relevant today? Why or why not?
Yeah, so absolutely, I do think that they are still relevant. And thanks for having me on. I definitely appreciate being a part of this venue, this forum here. But yeah, absolutely, HBCUs are important. Probably as important now as they've always been, for several reasons. So for me, kind of coming out of growing up in Atlanta, being in predominantly Black area, and trying to figure out where I was going to school. As a guy that was interested in engineering, the natural choice is to kind of look into Georgia Tech. But however, kind of with some of the racial things that I had heard about things that were going on at Georgia Tech, I didn't really feel like that was necessarily a fit for me. However, as a 17-year-old and I visited FAMU, being able to go to that campus and just see kind of the wide breadth of folks that were there at the school folks of all shades, folks of all backgrounds, folks from all kinds of different areas, just kind of let me know that that's a place that I would be accepted. And I continue to see that kind of over the course of my years there. Also with the I have several friends that went to predominantly white high schools, and where they may have been the only black person in their school, and just talking to them and kind of hearing what they had to say about being able to gain that value for our history. Because again, with FAMU, we were required to take a Black history course as freshmen. And so with that, you get a greater appreciation for the history and the contributions that Blacks have made to this country over the years. Also, from a social standpoint, folks have alluded to this. I've heard a couple times. The one big thing is you can always go back to is homecoming. I went to Arizona State for grad school. And I could tell you, based on what I experienced there and what I experienced at FAMU, there is absolutely no comparison. The excitement that goes around with going to homecoming did not exist at Arizona State at all. And I love that school. I give back, but it's a different thing. To be able to go back and you've got alumni, say from that have just recently got out to as far back as 50, 60 years ago, still coming back, still pouring into each other, still giving back, still getting out, having a good time, celebrating accomplishments, folks that are at the highest level of achievement in their careers, being able to talk to students and just give back is an exceptional thing. And then with that, also with the connections, it's a lifelong connection. So even the folks here, I guarantee, I'd almost guess that everyone had a similar experience. So when I moved to San Antonio, one of the first things that I found out when I got here, I went to an event and it was found out, hey, you went to FAMU, let me introduce you to some FAMU people. I walk over to the table at one of our events and just got introduced to a whole bunch of folks, and it was nothing but hugs and love all around. So that connection goes lifelong. And then lastly, I'll throw out the giving back piece is another thing that I think is very beneficial, and that continues to help these be relevant. So for instance, my freshman class this past year, last year, we raised over $200,000 for the scholarship for our education foundation at the school. Where that came in handy was as COVID hit and you had a lot of students that were either having to go back home or graduate, with the fees and things that come out of graduation, our class then made a decision to take a lot of that money and pay off the fees that those students owed, so they could try to get out of school without having that little bit of debt on their back. So overall, again, the family aspect of HBCUs is unlike anywhere else, I think, any other school that you would ever see. And then also that impact. Today, I'm not wearing a FAMU shirt. I'm wearing a Black Panther shirt in honor of Chadwick Boseman, who is a Howard graduate. And you can see just with kind of everything that's been happening, kind of the impact that he's had on people, kind of giving a lot of young people something to look up to, and just representing kind of what we have contributed to this country. So again, thank you for having me. That's it.
Awesome. Yes, very, very sad evening last night with the news of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And like you said, his connection to an HBCU. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for explaining what using Florida A&M as an example of why HBCUs are still relevant today. And on a normal day outside of today, I would probably have some comments about your HBCU choice, but I'm going to remain non-biased. And
yeah, let's be nice.
As we move forward to our next alum, we have Dr. McDowell, who graduated from the great Bethune-Cookman University. So since you went to such an outstanding school, I hear, could you please share with us some of your most memorable experiences at your HBCU?
I have so many amazing memories from Bethune-Cookman. I could go on all day long, but I think I would narrow it down to something that's similar to things that are going on around this time of year and every year around this time of year. When I was a freshman, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Is that feedback coming from my microphone?
Yes, alum, please make sure you mute just in case so we don't hear any feedback in your background. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. First generation college student. My dad, I just told him, hey, I want to go to college in Daytona Beach. I looked it up. he dropped me off and left, y'all. Like, my dad left me in Daytona. So I did not know anybody. And there were so many people that week of orientation. I met people from Africa, from the Bahamas, from California, like these amazing people that I did not know even existed, because I went to a predominantly white high school where I was the only black everything, the only black cheerleader, the only black girl on the soccer team. You could just point me out in the yearbook, there I was. So, like, I was there and I was very nervous, like, oh my God, all these amazing people, am I gonna fit in? Like, what is it gonna be like? We went through our week of orientation, and on the third day of classes, there was a hurricane headed our way, and they were like, well, school is canceled indefinitely, so you guys find a way home. And I was like, okay, well, my dad just dropped me off. I'm pretty sure he is not gonna come back and pick me up. And, you know, I'm scurrying back to my dorm, so confused. And it was at that moment that I realized what HBCUs were about. The president of the institution, my SGA president, my SGA vice president, everybody in the dorms, all the upperclassmen were in the dorms. They were on the yard. Do you guys need help? What do you need? Do you need a ride home? Do you need any food? If you need a place to stay and you can't get back home, you can come stay at my house. You don't have to go back home. And it was just an amazing experience. I rode home with a stranger, somebody that was in the hallway, like, hey, I'm headed back to Atlanta. Do you want to ride in my car? They didn't know who I was, and they let me ride back with them. And the whole time I was away, the teachers were checking on us. It wasn't like it was a professor. It was like my auntie or my uncle or somebody. Like, I really felt like they cared about me. It was the love, the compassion, the dedication of the staff, the students, and everybody worked there. The family environment made me knew from that one experience that this is where I needed to be, just the love and the joy. And when we got back from the hurricane, which was like a month later, everybody make sure, did you miss anything? Are you up to date on your classes? Do you understand everything that you missed? Because virtual school in 2004 is not virtual school in 2020. Like, we still had hardcore monitors. Like, it was crazy back then, but we made it through and we stuck together like a family. And that's what I love about Bethune-Cookman University. And that's what I love about HBCUs. That's when I realized I was in the right place. I'm not the only one. There's a world full of amazing, beautiful, black, bright African-American people. And we came together, and I mean, it was just amazing. That experience really made my college experience, and I knew I was in the right place.
Oh, thank you so much for that trip down memory lane. I actually got to Bethune-Cookman the year after your freshman year, and that was the year of Katrina. So we kind of had the same cycle. It was the beginning of school. What are we going to do? And because of that situation the year prior, we were able to we were kind of more prepared of what they were going to do with their students. And fortunately, Daytona didn't have to worry as much as we did, but we were prepared for it because of everything that you said. So it's really, really that faculty, staff, students, it really, really is a family-oriented environment, whether it be a school our size with approximately 4,000 or a school larger than that with 14,000. So thank you so much for that. Mr. Hayes, you're up next. So as a graduate of Jackson State University, what do you think? Hi. What do you think is a big misconception about HBCUs?
Misconception. Well, I went to the Jackson State University. And I also went to Prairie View A&M University for graduate school as well. So I have two experiences. Misconceptions about HBCU life.
In another way to phrase it, what do you think? What would you say is something that people associate with HBCUs that isn't necessarily true?
That the education is lacking, that it's a lower tier of education, that it lacks the professional networking skills or opportunities, and that it's, that it's races on the other side. you know, and it's neither of those three, right? The networking opportunities have been great, be it whether you're in a fraternity or sorority or just, you know, a regular student. The alumni associations are awesome, and we continue to support our alumni associations. I think that's another thing that gets lost in HBCUs is that we don't have good alumni and we don't, quote unquote, give back. I know me and my colleagues give back, and we actually just had what we call an annual day of giving for Jackson State University just 2 days ago to help with some of the university initiatives. But I think those are some of the misconceptions. You know, some people like to think, especially, you know, non-Black folks think that if you go to a HBCU, then you're a little bit racist, you know, yourself. But that's not the case. It's just a better opportunity for us to be educated, right? And for us to get a true education and an education that we can use to fuel our families and our careers, right? Not just going to college just to be going to college, if you will.
Got it. And thank you for bringing up our alumni networks. Every institution has them, and we need to make sure that and I believe, Mr. Brown, you talked about paying it forward, giving back to our HBCUs. And as alum, that is the way we do it, is by making sure that we're participating in our National Alumni Association. So thank you for your response and getting rid of some of those negative connotations with our schools and bringing that up as well. And last but certainly not least, we have Miss Arabella Hall. She is a recent graduate of Southern University. How are you?
Good.
I'm well. So how do you feel your HBCU experience prepared you for the postgraduate life?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that question. I've learned that people who look like me are educated, excellent, and can do anything that we put our minds to, despite what, you know, the world may tell us. Before college, I went to schools where there are about a handful of students who look like me and a select few of teachers who look like me. So going to an HBCU helped me learn how to be my authentic and unapologetic self. And I think that experience is irreplaceable. And if I had to do it all over again, I definitely would.
Well, congratulations again on your recent graduation. We are excited to see what you have in store and how you will use your HBCU experience as you progress with your new career in life. So thank you so much.
Can I say one thing before you move on? I just want to welcome you, the other lady from Bethune-Cookman, and the brother from FAMU to the SWAC.
We're happy to come and take over.
We look forward to attending your university and supporting your community, and we come and beat you all down. Get your respect.
Now you went left.
Anything to make your conference better. Anything to make the conference better. It's all about bettering the conference.
Coming to Texas.
Really?
Yeah, that is going to be exciting. Yes. So before we go, is there anything else that anyone wants to add? And we do need to go ahead and get onto our scholarship segment, but you've got 10 seconds or less to add something else that you want our viewers to know about HBCUs.
Yeah, so I do have something real quick. So you know, you hear about kind of all the bantering that's going on and the rivalry that's going on kind of between us. One thing that I would like to say is, even though we do that kind of in a friendly competition, in terms of the overall kind of big picture in terms of historically Black colleges, we all support each other. We all ride for each other. So when Kamala got that nomination, we all celebrated that. It's a big thing. It's bigger than just our school. So just remember that even though we have a rivalries, we still support each other.
Understand that, brother.
We even support Grambling when they don't show up for homecomings and things like that.
G first. You got to come through the G first. All right. We own the swag. Okay.
Mr. Rayford, is that
I'm pretty sure Southern alum has something to say about Grambling, but
just recognize when you come to the SWAC, you got to come through the G first. So we represent, so we allow you to come in, and we run the show. Just recognize the G, okay?
Well, we are ready. We are very excited.
I'm pretty sure we won the last SWAC challenge, but
Bethune, y'all are not ready. The family thinks they're ready. We welcome both of y'all. I know the coattails of FAMU. Grambling, just be quiet. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you.
See y'all in Miami Labor Day weekend.
And you know what, guys? This is what it's about. Like I said, I'll be the weather all day, every day. So it's all in fun. It's all in love. We all support each other when we have an opportunity to, because we are a big HBCU family. So thank you so much, Mr. Rayford, Mr. Brown, Ms. Hall, Dr. McDowell, and Mr. Hayes. Thank you all so much for coming in and just sharing with us your HBCU experience. And I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Make sure that you register for the virtual race, and we'll see you on the HBCU trail.
All right, bye.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So let's go ahead and get right on into our scholarship segment. Let's welcome to the stage Mr. Eric Bass of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and Mr. Lucas Davis, our 2020 SAMPHC scholarship recipient. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Good morning.
How are y'all?
Doing wonderful. Thank you.
I'm also
good. So let's get right into it. Brother Bass, let's go ahead and get you to kind of tell us about how do students apply for the SAMPHC scholarship? What do they need to know about it? And what type of student recipient are you looking for when we put this scholarship out every year?
Okay, great. First of all, the Pan Atlantic Council has been fortunate enough to be able to award a $1,500 scholarship over the past several years. And this year, despite the challenges we faced from the pandemic, we still received a total of 17 applications from 14 different high schools throughout the San Antonio metro area. Now, just to be eligible for the scholarship, students must be a minority student, and they need to be a graduating senior from a Bexar or Guadalupe County school district, have a minimum 3.0 grade average, and have a planned enrollment and already been accepted to a college or university, and with the intent of starting in the fall semester of 2020. The application package itself needs to consist of 2 letters of reference from either an administrator, a counselor, a coach, a teacher, or a department head in your high school, a letter of reference from a community member at large, an official school transcript that shows the grades, class rank of the student. In the past, we also required that the students have taken the ACT or the SAT, but this year we waived that requirement due to the pandemic, of course, and an autobiographical essay. Basically, students just need to apply. We actually sent out the call for applications. We usually send that out around mid-March, and we give the students a month or so to complete it back and have it back to us due mid-April. You can find the application package on our website. We've also disseminated the application package to various counselors throughout the San Antonio metro area, and also through all of our D9 organizations. What we're looking for as far as like to choose our winner each year, we're looking at the whole student concept. So the categories that we use to evaluate the students in the application packages, we look at academics to include grade point average, class standing, levels of courses that the students have taken over their high school career, and different performance trends. The next categories are essay, of course, so we're looking at grammar, spelling, how the students convey their message, etc. Honors and achievements that they receive throughout their high school career. School involvement, so sports, school government, National Honor Society, Junior ROTC. Basically, what has the student done throughout their high school career in addition to just going to class? The whole student concept. Community service, so what have they done not only in their school, but what have they done in their surrounding community to kind of help out and serve their community? And reference letters. And the reference letters need to convey impressions, strength of character, and qualities perceived by others. So this year's winner, Lucas Davis from Samuel Clemens High School, was the epitome of all of that. So that's why we were fortunate enough to select this young man.
Awesome. Thank you, Brother Bass, for all that very, very good information. I had some follow-up questions, but no need because you covered it all. And the main points that we want to make sure is understood, it is for a local student. So for all of our viewers outside of San Antonio, Bexar County, and Guadalupe County, Texas, unfortunately, your student cannot apply for it. But the application does come out normally around the March month. And we look forward to our next batch of applicants. So, Mr. Davis, again, congratulations on being our 2020 scholarship recipient for the SAMPHC scholarship. And I did want to mention, of course, you are a 2020 graduate from Clemens High School here in our local area, and you finished number 60 out of 590 seniors. You had a 99.65 GPA. You were part of National Honor Society, HOSA, the varsity tennis team, Junior National Society of Black Engineers, the Clemens Technology Student Association Vice President, and you received several STEM endorsements. So, wow. So can you tell us what it was like to apply for the SAMPHC scholarship, especially as such a busy student?
Well, with being a busy student, my schedule was very filled and very rigorous. There's a whole bunch of activities going on every single day. But I always found time throughout the day to set time aside just to apply for these scholarships to help my parents, because I wanted to help my parents pay for my college. So even with all that busy stuff, I always found time just to work on the scholarships, to try and get my application out there, to try and get more and more scholarships, so that way my parents could have to pay less for college.
Wow, and I know your parents are very proud. We did get to celebrate you on June 23rd, and we actually had a few of your supporters, your family support on that Zoom call when we celebrated you, and we definitely know that they are proud of you, as is our council. So job well done. And if we can't tell, we've got this Howard gear on. You were accepted and did accept the invitation to attend Howard University in Washington, D.C. So again, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. School is looking different at all grade and academic levels. So can you tell us what your first semester of college has been like thus far?
Yes. So I'm majoring as a mechanical engineer at Howard University. And my first semester, it has been completely changed because of the current situation with this pandemic. And it is all virtual. So everything is online through Zooms and then through our websites. And it's just a completely different environment than really anybody is really used to. So it's been a transition to change from going into a classroom and that face-to-face conversation to now just being everything online and trying to figure it out that way. So it's been a dramatic change, but it's also a great way to show how you can progress and move forwards through everything.
Excellent. And we're all excited to figure out what our new norm is going to be. Eventually, we will get our students back on campus. And I know, as Howard is a very prominent university in our HBCU circle, you are going to have fun. We want you to have fun. We want you to study, but we do want you to go ahead and get that HBCU experience you were already excited for prior to March 2020. So we're excited for you. We're going to keep in touch with you to make sure that things are going well. And again, I want to thank you, Brother Bass, for talking to our viewers about our scholarship. Thank you, Mr. Davis, for peeking in with your new college schedule. We thank you guys so much, and we can't wait to see you on the HBCU trail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you for coming. So now we are going to head over to our inaugural virtual HBCU Race Challenge event chairs, Sister Oronetta Hall of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and Sister Jovita Chandler of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, as they come to give us details about our event.
Hello, everybody. So I am super excited that we're hosting our inaugural HBCU Virtual Race Challenge. It will begin September 20th and run through October 17th in honor of National HBCU Week. During these challenging times, our HBCUs and students need our support more than ever. Due to COVID-19 global pandemic, we were unable to celebrate in person as we initially planned. However, staying active during this time of social distancing is important for our mental and physical well-being. San Antonio National Panhellenic Council wants to encourage everyone to just get moving. A portion of the proceeds will benefit our scholarship fund, which awards outstanding high school seniors from the San Antonio community as they enter their first year of college. This is also in honor of HBCU Week. It will also benefit HBCUs. We will award an HBCU Scholarship Foundation of the top fundraising HBCU team. So what's different about this race? It's not just a 5K or a 10K, it's a challenge. You can run, you can walk, you can cycle, you can swim, you can pretty much do anything. No worries. And you can do it from any location you choose. Collectively, we will complete the hashtag HBCU Trail as a community. So you ask, what is the HBCU Trail? Jovita, let them know. You're on mute, Jovita.
This is true. I was on mute. Greetings again. What is the HBCU Trail? The HBCU Trail is the distance it takes to travel to each HBCU, starting right here at St. Philip's College in San Antonio, Texas, and ended at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And that distance is over 14,000 miles. The entry fee is $35 for all participants. Participants can walk, run, cycle, or swim up to 25 miles. Participants will have the opportunity to pledge additional monies for each mile done over 25. What's included in your registration? You will receive a custom HBCU Virtual Race Challenge Finisher Medal, a downloadable HBCU bib and certificate customized by our very own chairperson, Sister Ornetta Hall. Registration is now open, so take the challenge and join us on the HBCU Trail. Join as an HBCU team or as an HBCU supporter on today. If you do not wish to take the challenge, as always, donations are accepted, or you can join as one of our sponsors. Once the official race challenge begins on September 20th, please share your results on social media using the hashtag HBCU Trail. To sign up or for more information, please visit the San Antonio National Panhellenic Council's Facebook page or Run Sign Up Now. In addition, all registered participants by 11:59 p.m. on today will be entered into a special drawing, so you don't want to miss out. But honestly, these HBCU grads, Southern University grads, would like to know, will you
accept the challenge?
Woo!
Yes. Will you accept the challenge? I accepted the challenge. Thank you so much, Sister Hall and Sister Chandler, for those very, very clear details. Again, the registration link will go live today, so make sure that you register, you get your bib and your pass to go ahead and participate in this event. Tell your friends, tell your foes, tell your sorority sisters, tell your fraternity brothers, tell your college mates, your dorm mates. Make sure that you tell everyone as we try to raise money for HBCUs and put them visible for other people to learn about them. So this is going to be an amazing event. Make sure you stay connected. And if you are watching us on Facebook, our website, or YouTube, make sure that you are leaving any questions that you may have about the details we just received in the chat, and we'll be sure to respond to you prior to the event being over. And for our last segment, we want to welcome Mr. Marvin Hurst, anchor and reporter for KENS 5, who will be the moderator of our political power segment, with special guest Dr. Gregory Hudspeth, president of the NAACP San Antonio branch, and Representative Barbara Gervin Hawkins, serving the Texas's 120th House District, who will talk to you, all of us, about voter registration, the census, and some legislative items we are going to want to pay attention to for this next legislative session. Thank you so much, Mr. Hurst.
Thank you so much, Sydney, and welcome BCU to the SWAC and FAMU as well. Looking forward to that. So I get the opportunity to tell you about your personal power, that power to change things and not just sit back and complain. You have the power to cast a vote to change things. And a lot of people are talking about how critical this election is. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about something that happened yesterday that represented a moment in history that none of us will ever forget. You know, when it comes around to remembering Dr. King's birthday in January, we always remember that speech at that time. And I want to talk to Dr. Gregory Hudspeth, who is, he was born into an NAACP family. He was born to lead, I believe. He is an associate professor of political science at St. Philip's College. So, Dr. Hudspeth, do you remember that day? Do you remember that day when that speech was given?
I do, but just one very brief correction, and that is I am now a retired associate professor at St. Philip's College.
I'm trying to keep you in the game. I'm so sorry.
Well, actually, the NAACP has now become my full-time occupation. And so I spend a great deal of time working with the association. Time that King gave that speech in 1963, I was a high school student at that time, and I do remember the speech. My family was very active with the NAACP at that time, and so it's I guess one could say that it's in my DNA with regards to my activities with the association.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the buzz at that time about the speech? I know we have social media and, you know, every network possible now and blogs and so on to inform us about that. But was there a community buzz about what was going to happen in Washington?
I don't have that sort of recollection. What I do have from a historical perspective is that the March on Washington was actually pulled together by A. Philip Randolph. And Martin Luther King was simply one of the speakers. He was not necessarily the star at that time. However, his speech has and so, you know, there were other speakers that were there. Obviously, you had John Lewis there as a speaker, and you had Whitney Young there as a speaker. And so there were 6 of them, as a matter of fact, that came together, that formed that organization, formed that group, and they were known as the Big Six. Martin Luther King's speech, however, was so outstanding that is what we actually remember. You don't remember the activities of the other individuals, the speeches that were given by the other individuals. The recollection is that of Martin Luther King, and it's because he was such a dynamic speaker.
So fast forward to 2020, we know the issues that they were facing then. As the person who leads the local NAACP, have the issues changed at all? Are we still facing the same kind of problems?
The 2020 March on Washington dealt with the same issues they dealt with in 1963. I looked here and I stated that one of the things that they were attempting to do in 1963 is that they were looking to bring, and let me emphasize this. I understand this. My academic training, I'm a political scientist by training, with research interest in public policy. And so you look at the march in 1963. It was organized by A. Philip Randolph. And so A. Philip Randolph was a union person. And so the primary goal in looking at it at that time was looking at unequal treatment in employment issues, but primarily employment. In order to make that particular march significant, A. Philip Randolph decided to bring other groups into the organization with him. So he brought in the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He brought in the Urban League and very organizations in order to make it meaningful. Now, having said that, those issues that we're looking at today are those same issues. They were looking at unequal voting rights. We're still looking at unequal voting rights. They were looking at voter suppression. We're still looking at voter suppression. And points that they were attempting to make in 1968 are the same points that we're making today. So we can talk about this being 50 years later, but it's really the same story. We have not gotten there yet. Now, I keep hearing folks say that, well, this election is the most important election that we've had. I would suggest Americans, every election is the most important election until the next election. And that is that we have to understand that one of the things we need to do is that it's very good to have protests, but we need to have from protests to the ballot box, and then from the ballot box to the policy changes. And the only way you get those policy changes is making sure that the right people are in office. When you have someone who is in office that can suggest that there are Ku Klux Klansmen and Nazis that are very good people, and let me take some point out, we are nonpartisan. The NAACP is nonpartisan. But when you have someone in the White House suggesting that there are and good Ku Klux Klansmen, we have a major problem. And when you have the same person suggesting that he's done more for African Americans than any other president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, we have a problem because he's tone deaf and simply does not understand where we are and what our needs are. Now, but it was simply a statement of fact.
So I heard so many outcries for justice yesterday, especially as it applies to African American men who are being killed by an officer-involved shootings. Cases that a lot of them are still unresolved. How do we carry that energy, the emotion from the march and make it to the poll? Because sometimes that apathy becomes a whole wall for us. I mean, we talk about it, but how do we be about it, as they say?
Yeah, you cannot be involved in a moment, involved in a cause. And what I'm suggesting is that if we become active only because something has happened, then as soon as that dies down, we're back to the same old thing. So what you must do is that you must get involved and stay involved in those activities that have to do with the NAACP. The NAACP, we're primarily concerned about policy changes. That's our goal. Now, do we engage in those others? Sure, absolutely. We're going to try our best to get people to the polls on election day and get individuals to vote. We're going to support the protests that will take place. But at the end of the day, our primary goal is to make sure we don't need to fight the same fight over and over and over again. But that's where we are, regrettably.
And I think that's a misconception of the NAACP. Everybody still sees you as the action group with the sit-ins and the historical pictures of you. And the organization has evolved in what it does. Should we become members of that, or what should we do? Who should we join?
Absolutely. One of the things, if you look at the March on Washington in 1968, you will 63. I'm sorry, I misspoke. That there were several organizations that were there. You had the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, you had SNCC, you had the NAACP. What I would suggest to you is that not one organization is going to be able to meet the needs of everyone. What we want to do, though, is that you have to be oriented. And so the NAACP is an organization that wants us to move from protest to policy. Now, we're not suggesting we're not going to engage in protests. I I walked on picket lines around Handy Andy. I walked on picket lines around Joskis and Chetsis. I walked on. We will still continue to do that. But at the end of the day, our goal is to use that to raise attention, but then to find a policy solution at the end.
Okay, so you've given us our motion. What should be the message?
The message is there's no election that we should sit out. We've sat out on some elections. We should never sit out on an election. There's no issue concerning Black people in which will suggest that that's not an issue that's important enough for us to be actively involved. We should also look at to other folks of color and ensure that we're meeting their needs as well. When you have our government deciding to take babies away from their parents at the border, that should be a concern for all of us, not just those of us who of our brown brothers and sisters. That should be a concern because listen, doing the same thing to us. They took the babies away from their mothers. And so when we see this happening at our border, it's reminiscent of what happened to us as Black people when we were slaves. So those are the things we need to be. We need to look. And when you have an Anglo male to shoot people in Wisconsin, and then after shooting, walk right past the police, and the police did not stop it. That should be a concern to all of us. And so those are the things that we need to watch. And if there are some policy issues that are involved, we need to ensure that we're there trying to change those policies as well.
That was a very striking image to me as well, watching him walk past those trucks, those lights, and they just asked, is anybody hurt? And he kept going. That is a fact of observation.
When you had the police officer to grab the gentleman, Blake, and pull him back by the back of his shirt, and then fire 7 bullets into his back. In order to do that, he had to dehumanize that person. Blake was no longer a person; he was an object, and that so there are bad police officers on the streets, and I'll ensure that we get those bad police officers off the street. And sometimes, regrettably, here in San Antonio, we are the worst at it because what we do is that the police chief will fire bad police officers. And in a few weeks, they're back on the streets again through arbitration. And so we have some work to do here in San Antonio.
So we've got 2 huge pieces of the voting block here. We've got HBCUs and we've got a Panhellenic Council of People. That to me represents a lot of power. This, of course, is could be a starting point for some people. What advice would you give them?
I would want each presented here today to join the NAACP and join us in our march for equality and equal justice. And we may do it in different ways. I will suggest I'm affiliated with several organizations that are represented here today, if you will. I'm a proud Phi Alpha fraternity. Initiated into Delta chapter at Houston-Tillotson College. So when I say Houston-Tillotson College, that means then that I attended an HBCU. For over 40 years, I was a faculty member and an administrator at St. Philip's College. And so I was employed in HBCU. So we use all of these organizations, our fraternal organizations, we use our HBCUs, and we use our organizations like the NAACP in order to help bring about a change. But we do it together. And one of the points I would like to make is that with the NAACP, we're not concerned for it. What we're concerned about is the results at the end of the day. The NAACP does not have to get the credit. We're not concerned about the credit. We're concerned about the results. And when you have, we had a African-American male that was shot and killed by the sheriff's department. We will investigate that. We're in the process of investigating that to ensure that that individual was not shot because he was African American. There are some challenges in our jail system. So we want to create a policy, we'll bring about some policy changes so that in our jail system and in our arrest process of arresting people, we do it in a way in which is not racially based. You had an African American male that was jogging the other day, and he was stopped by the police. And after being stopped by the police, he was then arrested and is now in jail. What we want to do is ensure that African Americans know when the police, how do you respond to that? We don't need more African Americans in jail. But at the same time, we don't need more African Americans with their rights being denied on the streets, either by the San Antonio Police Department or by the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. And so we have a meeting set up with the police chief in a few days. I just finished a meeting with the sheriff a few days ago. That's how we're going to bring about the change.
Okay, Dr. Gregory Hudsmith, thank you for the work that you are doing and the NAACP is doing in the San Antonio community. We wish you well. Let's transition over now to Barbara Gervins Hawkins. You've got to know her if you live in San Antonio. If you don't, I know where you've been. She represents the 120th, and that includes parts of San Antonio, Converse, Windcrest, and Kirby. She's a businesswoman, been out in the community working forever, it seems like, but I think her bio says 1981. I just feel like it's a little longer than that. Welcome to the forum this morning, Representative Hawkins. Let's talk about, first of all, let's find out what at the top of your mind after listening at what we've been talking about. What do you want to say? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
What comes to mind is the very first thing is that politics is the game changer. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation, because if we think historically, what has been our gap? We've marched, we did the lie-ins, the die-ins, we've talked to people, we've cried, we've done all of those things. We've got to engage more politically. That's where the rubber meets the road. And so having this conversation today, I want to be able to share the value of our groups being engaged and using their right to vote and what that can lead to. So, I'm here today to speak on that issue and how we get prepared.
How do we get prepared? I know we have to go out to the polls, whether it doesn't matter whose side you're on here, but to make that change, it begins at the poll. How do we get in the game and make change?
First of all, the message has to be helping everybody understand the value of their vote, okay? And why that vote is so important. If we think historically, if people was willing to kill you to vote and put every roadblock in the way to stop you from voting, that alone should stop those people from saying, my vote don't count. It counts immensely. So in preparing people, number one, we've got to make sure folks are registered to vote. Now, to vote this November, you have to be registered by October 5th. So, and you can check your registration. So go to Bexar County Elections, and there is the outline of how you make sure that you are currently registered. You need to make sure your name match and your address matches. And if they don't, you've got time to fix it. That's number one. We've also got to look at the fact that since suppression is going on, we must confirm our status. So let's do that. Let's make sure we confirm our status. Also, as we look at creating an environment that we don't have to stand in lines, vote early. San Antonio is going to have super polls around the county. So vote early, get it taken care of, because there will be a long ballot. And my colleagues across the aisle last session voted to eliminate straight ticket voting because they believe that Democratic voters are lazy and won't go down the ballot. So let's make sure not only we just vote in the presidential election, but we go down the entire ballot and make sure we get folks that have our same values in office. If you're a felon, let's make sure that you're eligible to vote, because there's a lot of conversation and myths going on, and you can vote once you've completed all of your requirements for probation and parole. You are eligible to vote. And so in our preparation, let's make sure we meet our deadlines. Let's make sure we check our registration. Let's make sure that we ensure that we're ready on day one. Here's another thing I want to add, Marvin, is this. Voting by mail can happen. So quickly, every state establishes their own criteria. So the state of Texas have determined, we used to mail in ballots. You're automatic if you're over 65 years of age. But in times of the pandemic, what's being allowed now is if you have other issues, asthma, diabetes, or you think you're vulnerable, you can check that disability box. So you may be 18 or 19, but yet you have asthma, and being exposed could potentially create harm to you. Check that disability box. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to do anything. Once you check it, sign it, you're certifying that you have other conditions that could be adversely impacted. The more people that do the mail-in ballots, it keeps the pressure off the polls. And so when you do your mail-in ballot, you have to also make sure your signature matches so that ballot doesn't get kicked out. So you've got to check your registration, Marvin. That's important.
There is, and I'm not picking political sides here. There is some information, I will call it, that is going out that the mail-in ballots will be worthless. They are just, they'll never be counted, that kind of thing. The myths.
They are myths. They are myths. When you think about mail-in ballots, some states do mainly mail-in ballots. I was able to tour in California their mail-in ballot system. Think about the mail-in ballots. When you do a mail-in ballot, you have one name, one birth date, and most likely it's not a duplicate, okay? So your mail-in ballots in many cases are more secure because they will scan all of your details and match it up with that ballot, and you send it in. The conversations around it won't count is related to the mailbox. So you don't have to even put it in the mailbox. You can take it to the elections office itself, or you can also verify and call and make sure your ballot has been received.
Okay. And as you mentioned, there are going to be some super centers put up by the county. They are going to do mail-in ballots. I believe I heard in the county commissioners meetings, automatically going out to people 65 and older, but they're going to pay for postage both ways. So that's good. Is there anything legislatively that we should be keeping our eyes on right now?
Definitely. So I am the second vice chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. And we had a press conference about 2 weeks ago. And as it relates to law enforcement, we're putting forward the George Floyd Act, authored by Sophronia Thompson, Representative Sophronia Thompson. So the George Floyd Act is one. Bowles Law, which is put forward by Representative Carl Sherman, and then myself and others, Equity and Justice Act of 2020. Also, we're looking at how we can enhance education. Education will never be the same again. What I want to share is that as of today and moving forward, education will never be the same. But here's what's happening, and this is what I'm concerned about in the African American community. Across the state of Texas, including in San Antonio, there's 20 to 25% of school-age kids that have not checked in any school. Think about it. 20 to 25% of school-age kids have not been found by the districts, okay? It adversely impacts us in the sense that if you don't have a family that promotes education, people don't have time for that. If you don't have the technology to connect to classrooms, My concern, Marvin, if we're not on top of this and create a community learning centers, we're going to have the academic slide that's going to hurt us for generations to come. Can you imagine if a large portion of our young people are not going to school at all, which means they're not even learning the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s? That has to be concerning to us. The academic slide occurs when you have breaks in education and you don't retain information. What about if you're a fourth grader and now you're supposed to be a fifth grader, but you're nowhere to be found? What happens when you're a sixth grader? So I'm immensely concerned about that. So we're looking at some educational initiatives that need to be filed so that we can create some community-based learning centers. The other thing we're going to be talking about is health. The area of health and the morbidity rate for African American women in terms of dying in childbirth is unacceptable in a day of modernized medicine. The other big issue will be climate control. It is expected already, the Lieutenant Governor has said, this will be probably one of the longest sessions in history. So to give folks a little background, as a Texas legislator, we meet 140 days. That's the second Tuesday in January to the end of May. Then, if we haven't addressed all of our issues, the governor has the right to call a special session. It only can last 30 days. So what the lieutenant governor has put forth is if we end in May, he's going to call special sessions every month through September so we can complete our agenda. Now, we're hopeful that the majority of the House will flip. We're a red state. If we become purple, and if the House of Representatives become Democratic, and even if the Senate stays Republican, it gives us much more power. But to get our legislation, as Dr. Hudspeth said, everything's policy. We've got to get down to policy.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Representative Barbara Gervin-Hawkins, for giving us a wealth of information. Thank you again, Dr. Gregory Hudspeth with the NAACP, a wealth of information this morning. And thank you for making time for us this morning. I'm going to hand it back over to Sydney Knowles of Bethune-Cookman College, Zeta Phi Beta.
Barbara, before you go, Marvin, can we talk a little bit about the census? We've got to deal with the census.
We got to get the census because we got to get our money, right?
Right. Not only money, census. Now, census is considered the most reliable population count. So census also impact how many representatives you get. In San Antonio now, if we're counted properly, can get 2 more congressional seats. That means we potentially can have an African-American congressperson from San Antonio. So census is about money and also about your congressional seats because of our growth in population. So it's an easy process. It's 10 short questions, and we need everybody to complete their census. Go ahead, Doctor.
Yes, let me point out also the legislature's responsible for redrawing those district lines. And so if we do not flip that legislature, even if we pick up additional seats, they can exclude us as they have done in many cases. And so we really need to ensure that we're voting down. The presidential election is extremely important, but the state legislative races this year are just as important as the presidential election.
No doubt about it, because I'll tell y'all, the games will continue to play if we don't do what we need to do. And also, we've got to realize that politics is the game changer. It's the game changer, y'all.
Okay. Thank you both again for sharing that information with us. Sydney, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Hurst, Representative Gervin-Hawkins, and Dr. Hudspeth. That political power segment was rich. Thank you so much for educating us and making sure that we are inspired and obligated to pay attention to what is going on around us in regards to how our legislation needs to change and affect our communities in a more impactful way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our presentation is coming to a close. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We hope that you enjoyed, we enjoyed, and we know that as soon as this ends, you're going to click that registration link. Again, it is on our Facebook channel right now in our chat, also on our YouTube and on our San Antonio National Panhellenic Council website as well. So before we end, I do want to bring back our event chairs, Sister Ornetta Hall and Sister Jovita Chandler, so that they can give us our final farewell and special acknowledgments for our sponsors.
Well, I just want to bring back all the committee members and our president. They're working so hard behind the scenes. Just to tell everybody, thank you so much for working hard to put this together. I want to thank our special guests for participating in our event today. I want to thank our sponsors, Obella Anesthesia, I Am Embrace Education, and Alpha One Greek. Don't forget, if you register today for the Run Challenge, you will be entered into a special prize drawing for a gift. So you'll have to complete your registration before 11:59 p.m. today. Jovita, do you have anything else you want to add, our race director?
All right, thank you. The registration link for the race is posted on our Facebook page, and also you can look at that on YouTube. I just ask that you share this information with your family and friends. Again, even if you did not attend an HBCU, you can always support the cause. So thank you. And Sister Ornetta, do you have a message you want to share with all of our attendees on today?
I don't know who I'm registering with, right? Southern University.
We can have another trash talking session. That's fine.
So the last question will be, will you accept the challenge?
And I woke up like this, proud to be a part of something outstanding. Them land grants from state to Claflin, educating black since 1896. I'm representing the Gardner and Blue, and know they can't shut us down because we way too historic. I'm proud of my school, shout out to the home team. We are open for success, we are destined to succeed. I am repping SC. Watch how we rejuvenate, them Q's about to set it up. Look out for that Alpha train, live from the plaza. It's the Marching 101, schooling bands across the land with that Carolina funk. I'm glad I went to college, I ain't even gonna front. Shout out Morehouse, shout out Morris Brown, turn it up. I got that school spirit, I don't know about you, but I love my HBCU, SC, SU. I love my HBCU. Delaware State. I love my HBCU. Johnson C. I love my HBCU. SC, SU, University of Maryland. I love my HBCU. Lincoln. I love my HBCU.